My wife forgot to buy my plane ticket to her sister's wedding in Hawaii, the one I paid for. She smiled when she said it, like she was announcing bad weather, not betrayal. Sorry, honey. We forgot to book your seat and hotel room. Everything's sold out. I just said, that happens. Then I disappeared for a year. As the story unfolds, take a moment to like, hit the hype button, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive her or walk away? I'm Jack Moren. I design furniture. I make things that hold weight, that distribute stress evenly, that stand for decades if you treat them right. I understand load points and structural integrity. I know exactly where to place a joint so it never fails, or where to place one so it does. Ruth was packing when she told me. 4 suitcases spread across our bed, each one containing outfits I'd never seen. Designer labels, new shoes, a bikini with the tags still on, price sticker reading $200, for a wedding I'd funded with our joint account. It's just a week, she said, not looking at me. Emily really wanted this destination thing. You know how she gets. Emily, Ruth's younger sister, 29, elementary school teacher, genuinely kind. The opposite of Ruth in every way that mattered. Emily had called me 3 weeks earlier, apologetic, saying she hoped I could make it, that it wouldn't be the same without me. She'd sounded sincere. Ruth had been in the room during that call, painting her nails, silent. When did you book your ticket? I asked. 2 months ago, didn't I tell you? She had not told me. I would have remembered. I remember everything. It's an occupational hazard. When you spend your days measuring 1/16 of inches, your brain doesn't let details slide. And my ticket? I thought you were handling it. She zipped a suitcase. You usually do the booking. I did usually handle it, which is why I would have booked 2 tickets. Together, like always. Everything's sold out now, she continued. Peak season. I checked. Show me. What? Your phone. Show me where you checked. She laughed, this tinkling sound she'd perfected for parties. Jack, don't be paranoid, it's just bad timing. I didn't push it. I simply walked to my workshop in the garage, closed the door, and sat at my drafting table. The smell of cedar and linseed oil usually calmed me. That night, it didn't. I pulled up our joint credit card statement on my phone. 2 tickets to Kona, purchased January 15th. The wedding was in March. She'd bought 2 tickets. I zoomed in on the passenger names. Ruth Moren, Colin Price, the ex-boyfriend from college, real estate developer, the one she'd mentioned exactly twice in 10 years of marriage, both times dismissively. That jerk from my design program, she'd called him once, total narcissist. I sat there for an hour, just breathing. My hands didn't shake. My mind didn't race. Instead, it did what it always does when presented with a problem. It began to analyze, to measure, to plan. By the time Ruth left for the airport the next morning, I'd kissed her cheek, wished her a wonderful trip, and told her I'd be fine. She seemed relieved, almost happy. I'll call you when we land, she said. Sure. She didn't call. The house felt different, empty, bigger, colder. I wandered through it that first day like a stranger, noticing things I'd stopped seeing. The kitchen I'd remodeled 3 years ago, custom cabinets I'd built by hand. The dining table I'd designed as an anniversary gift, walnut with butterfly joints, 8 months of evening work. The bedroom dresser, the living room shelves, the window seat in her office. All mine, all pieces of me, scattered through a house that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. On day 2, I found the cologne, not mine, a bottle of something expensive, tucked behind her bath products, nearly empty. I didn't recognize the brand. I took a photo of the label. On day 3, I found the credit card charges, not our joint account. A private card I didn't know existed. Restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels in the city, 5 different dates over the past 4 months, always weekday afternoons. Always the same hotel, the Riverside Grand downtown, 2 blocks from Colin Price's development office. I'd looked him up by then. LinkedIn, company website, social media, tall, fake tan, teeth too white. Photos of him at charity galas, ribbon cuttings, investor meetings. In 3 photos, Ruth appeared in the background, blurry, like she'd been cropped from the original frame. On day 4, I stopped eating. Not intentionally. Food just seemed irrelevant. I drank coffee, sketched furniture designs I'd never build, and made lists, facts, timelines, evidence. The wedding was 6 days long, resort package. I'd paid $8,000 for it. The charge on our joint account was labeled Ward Wedding Expenses. Emily had protested, said it was too much, but Ruth insisted we cover it. Family is everything, she'd said. We can afford it. We could afford it. Barely. I'd taken on 3 extra commissions that winter, worked 16-hour days to bank the money. Ruth had praised my work ethic. You're such a provider, she'd said, kissing my forehead, like I was a child who'd cleaned his room. On day 5, I opened a new bank account, transferred half our savings. My half. Legally, cleanly, exactly what I was entitled to. I contacted a divorce attorney, sent encrypted copies of the credit card statements, the cologne photo, screenshots of Colin and Ruth in those cropped party pictures. The attorney, a tired woman named Sharon, responded within an hour. Open and shut adultery case. You'll keep most assets. Do you want to proceed? I didn't answer immediately. I sat in my workshop, surrounded by tools and wood and the skeletal frames of unfinished chairs. Outside, March rain hammered the windows. Inside, I was very, very calm. Divorce felt too easy, too quick, too impersonal. I needed something else, something that matched the precision of the betrayal, something architectural. I texted Sharon back. Not yet. I need time. On day 6, Ruth posted a photo to Instagram. Her in a yellow sundress, champagne glass raised, ocean sunset behind her. Caption, Sister Love and Island Magic. 43 likes in an hour. Emily was in the background laughing. Colin wasn't visible, but his watch was. Rolex Submariner, visible on a wrist extending a champagne bottle into frame. Same watch in his LinkedIn profile photo. I commented, beautiful, miss you. She hearted it. On day 7, they came home. I picked Ruth up from the airport. She was tan, relaxed, glowing. She hugged me at arrivals, smelling like resort lotion and something else. That cologne. You look good, I said. Island air. She smiled. You should have been there. It was magical. Next time. Definitely. We drove home in comfortable silence. She showed me photos on her phone. The ceremony, the beach, the food, Emily in her dress. Colin appeared in exactly 0 photos. She narrated each image with enthusiasm, asking about my week, apologizing again for the mix-up with the tickets. It happens, I said. That became my line. It happens. When she said she'd lost her favorite earrings at the resort, it happens. When her phone was completely lifeless for 2 days, it happens. When she claimed she'd been too busy with wedding events to call, it happens. It happens. After a week, she stopped expecting reactions, stopped watching me for signs of suspicion. I became invisible in my own home, a background fixture like the furniture I'd built. I preferred it that way. Invisible meant free to work. I spent evenings in the workshop. I told Ruth I'd taken on a major commission, which was true. What I didn't mention was that the client was me. I was designing something new, something that required absolute precision, a year's worth of planning, compressed into clean, careful lines on drafting paper. Maya Reynolds called me on a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks after the wedding. Maya worked logistics for a design supply firm I'd used for years. We'd developed a friendship built on dry humor and mutual respect for deadlines. She was the person I called when I needed specialty wood or hard-to-find hardware. She was practical, skeptical, and currently very confused. Jack, weird question. Are you okay? Fine. Why? Ruth came by the warehouse today, asked if we'd seen you, said you've been distant. Work stress. She also asked if we knew anything about your finances, said you'd moved money around, acted shady. I told her to mind her business, but Jack, what's going on? I hesitated. Maya was trustworthy, but trust was a funny thing. I'd trusted Ruth for 10 years. Can we meet? I asked. Not at your office, somewhere private. We met at a coffee shop 40 minutes outside the city, far from anyone we knew. I showed her everything, the tickets, the cologne, the hotel charges, the photos. She listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from surprise to disgust to something colder. You're going to divorce her. Eventually. Eventually? I need to handle something first. Revenge? I considered the word. Correction. She leaned back, studying me. You're scary when you're calm, you know that? Will you help me? With what? I pulled out my notebook, showed her the sketches and plans I'd been drafting. Her eyes widened as she read, understanding dawning slowly. Jack, this is insane. This is carpentry. This is illegal. Nothing I'm planning breaks any laws. I checked, extensively. She read further, occasionally shaking her head. You really think you can pull this off? I know I can. I just need information, supply chains, vendor contacts, business registrations, things you have access to. Why would I risk my job for this? Because you're curious if it'll work. She stared at me. Then, slowly, she smiled. You're not wrong. That's how it started. Two people in a coffee shop planning something meticulous and completely legal. Maya would provide information. I would provide execution. She made one condition clear. I'm not doing this because I approve. I'm doing this because I respect craftsmanship, even angry craftsmanship. Fair enough. And Jack? When this blows up, and it will blow up, I was never involved. You were never involved. We shook hands. The plan required patience, months of it. I couldn't rush. Rushing created flaws, and flaws created failure. So I waited. I worked. I played the role of oblivious husband with such commitment that Ruth stopped bothering to hide things. Her phone sat unlocked on counters. Her laptop password, which I'd long known, never changed. She met Colin twice more that spring, both times claiming work events. I said nothing. I documented everything. In May, Colin's development firm announced a new venture, a boutique design partnership focusing on high-end residential furniture and interior installations. They'd hired Ruth as creative director. The press release featured both their photos, professional and polished. Ruth called it her dream job. I congratulated her, asked about salary, benefits, hours. She talked for an hour. I listened. What she didn't know, what the press release didn't mention, was that Colin's firm was struggling. Maya had pulled incorporation documents, loan records, supplier contracts. The development side was solid, but this design venture was a gamble funded by personal debt and investor promises. Colin needed it to succeed. Ruth believed in it because she needed to believe Colin was successful. I began designing my own furniture line that summer, not under my name. Under a new LLC, Moren Design Works, registered in a neighboring state with Maya's cousin as the public-facing owner. Paperwork so clean it squeaked. I rented a workshop 2 hours away, a barn space near the coast. I told Ruth I was spending weekends there for my big commission. She barely looked up from her laptop. Sounds great, honey. Bring home money. I brought home money. I also brought home information. Colin's firm had put out a supplier bid for custom furniture, materials and manufacturing for their launch line. The bid was substantial. Whoever won it would handle everything from raw materials to final assembly. It was the kind of contract that could define a small firm's year. Moren Design Works submitted a bid. It was professional, competitive, backed by a portfolio of work I'd spent months crafting under a pseudonym. Maya's cousin presented it in person, all smiles and competence. Colin and Ruth never connected the dots. They accepted the bid in August. I would build every piece of furniture for their launch, every chair, table, cabinet, shelf. I would design their commercial success, and I would engineer its failure with the same precision I'd once used to build our life together. The workshop smelled like possibility. Fresh cut oak, Danish oil, the metallic tang of new tools. I'd outfitted the barn with everything I needed. Industrial saws, pneumatic sanders, a finishing booth, wood stock organized by species and grade. It looked professional because it was professional. This wasn't a hobby. This was my life's work, weaponized. I started with the chairs. 12 dining chairs for their showroom floor, meant to showcase their aesthetic vision. Ruth had sent detailed specs, mood boards, inspiration photos. She wanted Scandinavian minimalism meets coastal luxury, clean lines, natural materials, subtle sophistication. I knew exactly what she wanted because I'd taught her to want it. Every design preference she'd developed over our marriage had been shaped by my work, my tastes, my patient explanations of why something worked or didn't. Building furniture to fail requires more skill than building it to last. You can't make it obviously weak. It has to pass inspection, hold weight during testing, photograph beautifully. The flaws have to be invisible, buried deep in the joinery, the wood selection, the finish application. Structural time bombs set to detonate under stress. I chose the wood carefully. Red oak, properly dried, structurally sound. But I selected pieces with hidden defects, knots positioned at stress points, grain running perpendicular to load, microscopic checks invisible to casual inspection. Then I assembled everything correctly, except for one detail. The mortise and tenon joints, those connections where rail meets leg, I cut them slightly loose. A 64th of an inch too wide, barely noticeable. Enough that over time, with weight and use, they'd begin to separate. The chairs wouldn't collapse immediately. They'd deteriorate slowly, unpredictably, over weeks. The tables were subtler. Breadboard ends, those pieces that cap the table ends and prevent warping, are supposed to float in their grooves. Wood expands and contracts with humidity. You account for that movement. I didn't. I glued them solid, restricted the natural expansion. In a climate-controlled showroom, nothing would happen. But introduce humidity changes, seasonal shifts, and the tabletops would crack. Not along the edges, where you'd expect. Right through the center. Catastrophic. The cabinets were my masterpiece. Ruth wanted floating cabinets for their showroom display, suspended from wall mounts, no visible support. Beautiful, modern, technically challenging. I built them perfectly. The cabinets themselves were flawless. The mounting system, though, that was different. I used the correct hardware, rated for the weight, but I positioned the mounting brackets at points where the wall studs had knot holes, weak spots in the lumber. The showroom was in an old building Colin had renovated. The walls were original, structural, solid, except where they weren't. I'd studied the building plans, identified every compromised stud. The cabinets would hold for weeks, maybe months. Then gradually, the brackets would pull free. Not all at once, one by one. I worked 12-hour days that summer. I'd drive to the barn at dawn, work until dark, drive home exhausted. Ruth never questioned it. She was busy with her own preparations, sourcing accessories, hiring photographers, planning their launch event. She'd show me fabric swatches and ask my opinion. I'd give thoughtful feedback. She'd smile, kiss my cheek, return to her laptop. In September, Colin's firm announced their launch date, November 15th, a Friday evening, invitation only, industry press and potential investors. Ruth was electric with excitement. This was her moment, her validation, proof she was more than a furniture maker's wife. She bought a new dress, deep green silk, expensive. She asked if I'd help zip it. I did. "You're coming, right?" she asked. To the launch? If you want me there. Of course I want you there. You're my husband. The word felt empty. Husband. A role I'd been playing while she practiced being someone else's wife. I'll be there, I said. The furniture shipped in early November. Maya coordinated everything, careful to leave no connection between her and the shipment. The delivery manifests listed a logistics company 3 states away. Payment went through shell accounts, perfectly legal, perfectly obscure. Colin's firm received everything on schedule. I'd included care instructions, assembly notes, specifications for installation, everything a reputable supplier would provide. Ruth sent me photos of the showroom setup. The space looked incredible. My furniture, her styling, Colin's money. It photographed like a lifestyle magazine spread. She was proud. Colin sent her flowers. She posted them to Instagram with a heart emoji. I went to the barn one last time before the launch, stood in the empty workshop, breathing in the ghost scent of sawdust. I'd cleaned everything, removed every tool, every scrap. The space echoed. I'd created something here, not furniture but consequence. A year of rage compressed into precise measurements and hidden flaws. Maya met me outside. She'd driven up to help clean, though mostly she'd come to ask the question I knew she'd ask. You can still stop this. I don't want to stop it. Jack, when this goes wrong, people could get hurt. The furniture won't injure anyone. It's not built to collapse catastrophically. It's built to fail slowly, visibly, expensively. That's not what I meant. I looked at her. Ruth and Colin hurt me slowly, visibly, expensively. This is just symmetry. That's not comfort talking. That's rage. Can it be both? She didn't answer. We locked the barn and drove back to the city in separate cars. I stopped at a hardware store on the way home, bought materials for a small project, a simple wooden box with a card slot. I'd write a note when the time came. For now, I just built the box, sanded it smooth, oiled the surfaces. My hands knew what to do. They always did. The launch party was everything Ruth had imagined. 200 guests, catered food, open bar, string quartet in the corner. The showroom glowed with warm lighting, my furniture arranged like sculpture. I arrived early, watched the setup from across the street. Ruth was radiant, directing last-minute changes, adjusting place settings. Colin stood near the bar, glad handing early arrivals, looking every bit the successful developer he pretended to be. I wore a suit Ruth had never seen. Charcoal gray, well-fitted, expensive. I'd grown a beard over the summer, let my hair get longer. I looked different. Older, harder. When I walked in, Ruth almost didn't recognize me. Jack, oh my God, you look amazing. New look. I love it. She kissed me, tasting like champagne she'd already started drinking. Come meet everyone. This is so exciting. She introduced me as her husband, the furniture designer. Aren't I lucky to have such talent in the family? People shook my hand, complimented my wife's eye for design, asked what I thought of the space. I smiled. I nodded. I said the furniture looked remarkable in this context. I wasn't lying. Colin found me near the buffet. We'd never met in person. He extended his hand, confident, performative. You must be Jack. Ruth talks about you all the time. Does she? All good things. She says you're a master craftsman. I try. These pieces are incredible. He gestured at a dining table nearby. The supplier we found, absolute top tier. You'd appreciate the quality. I'm sure I would. We talked for 5 minutes about wood grain and finish quality. He had just enough knowledge to sound informed, not enough to be credible. I let him explain joinery techniques to me, nodding along. Ruth watched from across the room, smiling. Her 2 favorite men getting along. Everything was perfect. The first chair broke at 7:15, not dramatically. A guest sat down, shifted weight, and the leg joint separated with a soft crack. The chair didn't collapse, just sagged, unstable. The guest stood quickly, embarrassed. Colin laughed it off, made a joke about skipping dessert. Staff moved the chair away. Someone brought a replacement from the back office. At 7:40, a table corner dropped. The breadboard end had split, invisible cracks spreading through the grain. A tray of appetizers slid off, crashed to the floor, glass breaking, food scattering. Ruth's smile flickered. Staff cleaned up. Colin made another joke, weaker this time. By 8, 3 more chairs had failed. People stopped sitting. They stood in clusters, drinks in hand, whispering. The energy shifted from celebration to confusion. Ruth pulled Colin aside, hissing something I couldn't hear. He looked angry, defensive. She looked terrified. At 8:30, the first cabinet detached. It didn't fall completely, just tilted forward, held by one remaining bracket. Dishes inside crashed together, some breaking. The sound cut through conversation like a gunshot. Silence followed, then nervous laughter, then nothing. I found Ruth in Colin's office, crying. Colin was on the phone with the supplier, shouting. I knocked, stepped inside. Everything okay? No, everything's not okay. Ruth's makeup had run. The furniture is defective, all of it. This is a nightmare. I'm sorry. Colin's supplier claims everything was built to spec. But this is obvious sabotage. Someone wanted to ruin us. That seems paranoid. Does it? This is a 1,500-person event. Industry press is here, investors, and our furniture is falling apart like IKEA garbage. Colin hung up, furious. He looked at me like I was an annoyance, something to dismiss. Ruth, handle your husband. I need to control this situation. Excuse me? I kept my voice level. No offense, but this is business, major business. I need to think. Of course, I'll just be out front, watching your business collapse. I left before Ruth could answer. Outside, the party was fading, the energy gone. Guests were leaving, making excuses, avoiding eye contact with Ruth and Colin. The string quartet played to an increasingly empty room. I stood near the door, watching my furniture fail in slow motion. Another chair, another table corner, a second cabinet, tilting dangerously. A reporter from a design blog approached me, recognizing Ruth's husband. What do you think happened here? Structural failure. Poor materials probably, maybe rushed assembly. Ruth mentioned the supplier came highly recommended. Recommendations don't guarantee quality. You have to know what you're building. You have to understand load points, stress distribution, material behavior. Someone clearly didn't. She scribbled notes. Do you design furniture? I used to. By 9, the showroom was nearly empty. Ruth sat on the floor, shoes off, crying silently. Colin paced, phone pressed to his ear, trying to reach investors, explain the situation, promise solutions. I approached Ruth, crouched beside her. Hey, don't. Just don't. I was going to say I'm heading home, unless you need me. She looked up, eyes red. Did you do this? Do what? Sabotage the furniture. Somehow. I don't know how, but did you? I met her eyes. Ruth, I've been working on my commission all summer. You know that. I haven't touched anyone's furniture but my own clients. Then why aren't you upset? Your wife's career just imploded and you're standing there like it's weather. It happens? She flinched. The phrase landed like I'd hoped. She recognized it, the echo of her own words from a year ago. The wedding, the forgotten ticket. Her face went pale. Jack, I'll see you at home. I left, drove slowly, carefully, hands steady on the wheel. At home, I poured whiskey, sat in my workshop, and waited. Ruth came home after midnight. I heard her in the kitchen, opening cabinets, slamming doors. Then she appeared in the doorway, still in her green dress, holding a bottle of wine. We need to talk. Okay. Did you sabotage Colin's launch? How would I do that? I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Ruth, I haven't been anywhere near Colin's business. I don't know his suppliers, his contractors, his timeline. I've been here, working. You've barely noticed me for months. That's not fair. What's not fair is forgetting your husband's ticket to your sister's wedding so you could bring your boyfriend instead. Silence. She set the wine down, hands shaking. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone, showed her the credit card statement. 2 tickets. Her name, Colin's name. She stared at it, mouth open. Jack, that's not what it looks like. Then what does it look like? Colin's a business partner. We've been developing this launch for months. He needed to meet Emily's contacts in the industry. The wedding was networking. You've been sleeping with him. I have not. I showed her the hotel charges, the cologne, the cropped photos. She watched her lies crumble in real time, struggling to rebuild them, finding no material to work with. Okay, she finally said. Okay. Yes. Colin and I have been seeing each other, but it's not what you think. What do I think? That I don't love you. But I do, Jack. I've just been confused, stuck. You're so steady, so reliable, and I needed something different. Colin makes me feel alive. Does he? I was going to tell you, eventually. I just needed time to figure things out. How much time? Another year? Another wedding? She started crying again. Are you divorcing me? I'm thinking about it. Please don't. We can fix this. I'll end things with Colin. We can go to counseling. Jack, please. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for a decade, who'd become a stranger without my noticing. Or maybe I'd noticed and ignored it, too focused on building things that lasted to see that we didn't. Go to bed, Ruth. We'll talk tomorrow. She left, defeated. I sat in the workshop until dawn, sketching nothing, thinking everything. The launch disaster would spread. Design blogs, industry gossip, investor panic. Colin's firm would face scrutiny, questions about quality control, supplier vetting, project management. The furniture failure would become a cautionary tale. Ruth's creative director credit would attach to catastrophe, not success. And I'd done it all legally. Nothing traceable, nothing actionable. Just good work, built to fail. Engineering as revenge. Maya texted me at 6 a.m. I saw the news. You're terrifying. I replied, I'm thorough. What now? Phase 2. There's a phase 2? There's always a phase 2. Colin came to my house 3 days later. I was in the workshop, sanding a chair leg for an actual client, when I heard the garage door rattle. He didn't knock, just walked in, face red, jaw tight. We need to talk. I kept sanding. You're in my space. Your space? Your wife destroyed my business. How did Ruth destroy your business? She vouched for that supplier, insisted we use them, and now I'm looking at 100,000 in losses, maybe more. I set down the sandpaper, brushed dust from my hands. That sounds difficult. Difficult? I have investors threatening to pull out. The furniture we ordered is worthless. The launch was a public disaster, and Ruth keeps saying she doesn't understand what went wrong. Maybe she doesn't. Or maybe someone wanted it to go wrong. He stepped closer. Ruth mentioned you've been distant, working on some mysterious commission for months, never showing her what you're building. Artist's prerogative. Or guilty conscience. I smiled. Not warmly. Colin, are you accusing me of sabotaging furniture I've never seen, from a supplier I don't know, in a business I have no connection to? I'm saying it's suspicious. What's suspicious is my wife buying you a plane ticket to her sister's wedding and forgetting mine. What's suspicious is hotel charges at the Riverside Grand every Tuesday for 4 months. What's suspicious is you standing in my workshop, acting like you're the victim. His face changed. The anger shifted to something else. Calculation. She told you. She didn't have to. Look, Jack, what Ruth and I have, it's complicated. It seems simple to me. You don't understand our history. I understand you're sleeping with my wife while I pay her bills. He laughed, sharp and bitter. Pay her bills? Ruth's been paying half your mortgage for 3 years. Her styling work brings in more than your furniture hobby. That stung because it was partially true. Ruth had been out earning me lately. I'd been taking fewer commissions, focusing on craft over profit. She'd resented it, quietly, in ways I'd noticed too late. "You should leave," I said. "Not until you admit what you did." "I didn't do anything. The supplier, Moren Design Works. That's your name, Moren." My heart rate didn't change. I'd expected this, prepared for it. Moren is Norwegian. It means the sandy beach, relatively common surname. You think I'm the only Moren in America? You're a furniture designer. So are 50,000 other people. Colin, you're grasping. Your launch failed because you cut corners, hired cheap labor, didn't vet your suppliers properly. That's on you, not me, not Ruth. You. His hands clenched. For a moment, I thought he might swing. I hoped he would. I wanted the excuse. But he just stepped back, breathing hard. "This isn't over." "It is, actually. Ruth and I are filing for divorce. You can have her. Congratulations." He left without responding. I listened to his car roar away, then returned to my work. My hands were steady. The chair leg needed another hour of sanding. I gave it 2, getting the curve perfect, the surface glass smooth. Ruth found the divorce papers that evening. I'd left them on the kitchen counter, already signed, waiting for her signature. She read them in silence, still in her work clothes, face exhausted. "You're really doing this?" "Yes." "Because of Colin?" "Because of everything. Colin's just the symptom." She sat down hard, papers clutched in her hand. "I messed up. I know. But marriages survive affairs. We can survive this." "Ruth, you didn't have an affair. You replaced me. There's a difference." "That's not true. You bought him a ticket to your family wedding. With my money. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." She signed the papers. Her hand shook, but the signature was legible. I took them, put them in an envelope for the attorney. That was it. 10 years, dissolved with ink and paper. The divorce moved quickly. No kids, no complicated assets, no real fight. Ruth didn't contest anything. She moved out in December, took her clothes and laptop and houseplants, left the furniture because all of it was mine. The house echoed empty. I kept working, taking commissions, building chairs and tables and shelves. Colin's business struggled through winter. The launch disaster had damaged his reputation. Investors pulled funding, projects stalled. He tried to take Moren Design Works to court, but the company no longer existed. No assets left, no one to hold accountable, just a legal ghost, officially closed and long gone. Maya called me in January. "He's hiring a forensic accountant." "To find what?" "Connections, paper trails. He thinks you're behind the supplier." "He can think whatever he wants." "Jack, if they trace the LLC back to you, that's fraud." "It's not fraud if everything was legal. The furniture was built to specification. It passed initial inspection. The failure was due to material defects and environmental factors. All documented in my notes, which they'll never see." "You kept notes?" "Of course I kept notes. I'm a craftsman. We document everything." She laughed, tired and impressed. "You're going to get away with this." "I already got away with it. Everything else is just noise." But Colin didn't give up. By February, he'd connected enough dots to form a picture. Not evidence, but intuition. He showed up at the barn workshop one Saturday, somehow finding the address. I was there, working on a rocking chair for a client in Vermont. The door was open. He walked right in. "Nice space." I didn't look up from the router. "Private property. I won't stay long. I just wanted to see where you did it." "Did what?" "Built the furniture that destroyed my business." I turned off the router, faced him. "Colin, your business destroyed itself. Bad planning, poor execution, inadequate oversight. That's not sabotage, that's incompetence. The LLC that supplied our furniture was registered to a woman named Sandra Reynolds, Maya's cousin. I did my research. Congratulations." Maya works for your regular supplier. You two are friends. So? So you used her connections to create a fake company, underbid legitimate suppliers, and delivered garbage furniture designed to fail. I set down my tools, crossed my arms. That's a creative theory. Can you prove any of it? Not yet. But I will. No, you won't. Because even if you could connect me to the LLC, which you can't, you'd have to prove intent. You'd need to demonstrate that I deliberately engineered structural failure. But the furniture was built to specification. You have the specs Ruth sent. Every measurement matches. The materials were quality grade. The failure was due to environmental factors and normal use stress. That's not sabotage. That's physics. You're a snake. I'm a carpenter. There's a difference. He moved fast, grabbed my shirt, shoved me against the workbench. Tools rattled. For a second, we stood there, breathing hard, his face inches from mine. You took everything from me. No. I took back what you stole. He shoved me harder, then let go, stepped back. His hands were shaking. She doesn't love you anymore, he said. You know that, don't you? Whatever was between you, it's over. I know. And you don't care. I care. I just care about different things now. He left. I locked the door behind him, checked the locks twice. Then I returned to the rocking chair, sanded the arms smooth, oiled the joints. My hands were steady. The final confrontation came in March, exactly 1 year after the wedding I'd missed. Colin had spent months gathering evidence, building a case. He'd hired a lawyer, filed a civil suit, demanded damages. The suit went nowhere. No evidence, no witnesses, no traceable connection between me and the supplier. But Colin wasn't done. He convinced Ruth to meet with him, talk strategy. She agreed, desperate. Her career had stalled after the launch disaster. No one wanted to hire the creative director whose first major project had literally collapsed. They met at the Riverside Grand. Maya told me about the meeting. I showed up uninvited. Walked into the hotel bar at 8 p.m., found them at a corner table, drinks and documents spread out. Jack? Ruth stood. What are you doing here? Heard you two were strategizing. Thought I'd contribute. Colin's jaw tightened. You're not welcome. It's a public bar. I pulled up a chair, sat down, ordered whiskey from a passing server. Ruth and Colin exchanged glances, uncertain. We're discussing legal options, Colin said, against the supplier. Still chasing that ghost? We have new evidence. Do you? He slid a folder across the table. Inside, documents, financial records, business registrations, witness statements. Not enough for court, but enough to make me uncomfortable. I read through it slowly, sipping whiskey. Then I closed the folder, slid it back. This proves Maya's cousin incorporated an LLC. It doesn't prove I was involved. Her cousin never worked in furniture. She's a dental hygienist. So? So someone used her name. Someone with motive and expertise. Can you prove it was me? Not yet. Then we're done here. Ruth spoke up, voice small. Jack, just tell us the truth. Did you sabotage the launch? I looked at her. She'd lost weight, cut her hair, stopped wearing makeup. She looked tired, older, diminished. Colin looked worse. His tan had faded, his confidence cracked. You want the truth? Yes. I leaned forward. Here's the truth. I spent a year planning how to hurt you both. Not physically, that's crude, but systematically. I wanted to dismantle everything you built, the way you dismantled everything I trusted. So I studied you, learned your business, your timeline, your weaknesses. Then I engineered a solution. Colin's face went white. Ruth's hands covered her mouth. But here's the thing. I can't prove I did it. And you can't prove I did it. It exists in a space between suspicion and evidence. You'll spend years wondering, investigating, obsessing, and you'll never know for sure. You're admitting it, Colin said. I'm admitting nothing. I'm just explaining how revenge works when you're patient enough. We can use this. Record it. I smiled. You're not recording. If you were, your phone would be visible, angled for audio. It's not. And even if you were recording, this conversation is hearsay. I didn't confess to a crime. I described a hypothetical. Ruth grabbed my arm. Why? Just tell me why. Because you forgot my ticket to the wedding, and because I paid for yours. Colin shot to his feet, his chair clattering backward, his face flushed, the veins in his neck standing out. You arrogant fool, you think you're so clever. I think I'm thorough. You destroyed my life over a plane ticket? No. I destroyed your life because you stole my wife and made me pay for the trip. He lunged across the table. I'd been waiting for it. I stepped aside, and he crashed into the empty chair, sending drinks flying. The bartender shouted. Ruth screamed. Colin recovered, came at me again, swinging wild. I caught his wrist, twisted it behind his back, shoved him face first against the bar. Not hard enough to injure, just hard enough to control. You're done, I said quietly in his ear. Your business is bankrupt. Your reputation is destroyed. Ruth doesn't love you. She's just using you because she's desperate. And I did all of it without breaking a single law. That's the difference between us. You're sloppy. I'm precise. I let him go. He slumped against the bar, breathing hard. The bartender was on the phone with security. Ruth stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. I threw cash on the bar, looked at them both one last time. Design isn't about creation, I said. It's about knowing exactly where to make it fall apart. Then I walked out into the cool March night. Behind me I heard Ruth calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I got in my truck and drove back to the barn, hands steady on the wheel. At the workshop, I unlocked the door and stood in the doorway for a moment. The space smelled like cedar and linseed oil. My tools hung on the walls, organized and ready. Woodstock stood in careful rows. I stepped inside, closed the door, and got to work. There was a dining set waiting to be built. Oak, properly jointed, designed to last generations. Honest work.